Welcome back, everyone, to the Paige Kornblue Show. So glad you're here. You know, this place is where we tell the stories, we showcase the people, the places, organizations, and brands that truly make a difference. And today's guest is someone who lives life at full speed, literally and figuratively. Melissa Perlman is a powerhouse in both the world of public relations and competitive long-distance running. She's the founder of BlueIvy Communications, a trailblazer in the South Florida PR world, I know firsthand for many years, and a veteran communicator with deep roots in journalism and corporate communications. But she's also a world-class athlete, a decorated marathoner, and multi-time Maccabi. Did I say that right?
Maccabi.
Darn it.
But close.
We tried this over and over. Maccabi Games medalist. I have to say, my first time promoting that one. And you recently ran in the pro division of the 129th Boston Marathon and crushed it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get into this. We're going to dive into the worlds of branding, endurance, leadership, and how you do it all, right?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
It's so fun to be in this space with you.
I know.
We're in many work platforms
Yes.
in different capacities and
Yeah.
always over email. So this is so fun to be in person.
Yeah, it is.
And,
I appreciate it.
Okay, you finished, and this is the breaking news, the latest news. We're seeing it on your shirt on video. Boston. You finished 57th overall and 10th master, the over 40 division in the 2025 Boston Marathon, this year's race.
Correct.
I mean, how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels really good. I mean, it's been, just over a week since, and it's a long time training for it and working towards it. So when you step away from it, it just, it feels really good, and it also feels so far away in some ways because it's been, you're separated now from it. You did it, but it's nice to look back and see that achievement and roll it into what's next. It's always about accepting it, getting excited, enjoying it, and then moving forward with it.
Okay, so before we talk about what's next, but we got to sit in this for a minute, as they say, walk us through, run us through, race us through this experience. I mean, you probably write a book on it, right? But take us there.
Yeah, so normally, this was my 11th marathon, and I've run the Boston Marathon 4 times now, including last week. But this time was very different from the other times. So normally I qualify as a regular runner, and it's hard to qualify for Boston. You have to hit certain times. And I've done that each time and then raced with the regular runners in wave 1 or wave 2 or wherever it may be, and love the experience and the cheers and so on. This time, though, I was invited to compete in the elite or women's professional division, which is very different from the regular runners. So, there's about 30,000 runners out there, but there's only 60 or so men and 60 or so women running in the elite divisions. The elite divisions start a little earlier. So my start time was 9:47 rather than the rest of the field starts at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. They have a rolling start. You run with your name on your bib. So all of the runners in the elite division have their last name on the bib, unless you're a defending Boston Marathon champion, and then you get your first name on your bib. And you start, ahead of time. It's separated from the rest of the runners, so you really have an open road, which is a weird experience for anyone that runs regular marathons. It's crowded. There's like thousands of people around you the whole time because you're always either passing someone or someone's passing you. This was an open road. And the other perk was that we had our water and gels every 5K. So professional runners get fluids. So you don't have to carry everything on you, or you don't have to take it from the paper cup and try to splash half the water on your face and half in your mouth. This time I had bottles that I filled with the liquid that I wanted of choice, and they were attached to my gels. And every 5K, there was a table where mine was located on table 14, and I could grab it. So a really different, cool experience. Everything was new to me in it. I had a technical meeting with the other professional athletes the day before. They check your bib, they check what you're wearing, make sure that it's approved, that there's no, extra branding on there that they don't want. They check your shoes, make sure that they're World Athletics approved and registered. It's like a totally crazy new experience in this world of professional running.
And you said 60 women.
Yeah, there ended up being 60 women at the start. Yeah.
Only. That's amazing. And how far in advance did you know you were going to be or invited to be in that elite?
Yeah,
60?
so Boston registration opened in about October. And at that time, when I registered, I wrote the professional elite coordinator and said I would be interested if I could get into there. And then they didn't let us know until early January. That's when they announced the field. So much further after where most people knew they were in Boston or not. So in early January, I got the notice that I was part of the field, and, the entry fee is waived when you're part of the professional field, and there's all these, perks, and they'll be letting us know of what you're invited to and what you have to be at. Definitely a different experience because professional running, it's not like the NFL or the NBA where you're either, professional part of a team or you're just watching from the stands. Running, which makes it so special, is, any regular runner that's running in the Boston Marathon is running on the same day, on the same streets as a professional runner. They're just usually, a couple of, an hour behind, or, they start at a different start. But in this case, I'm right next to the people that are the highest level professionals in the sport of marathoning. And, some are sponsored by shoe brands or clothing brands or, gel brands or whatever it may be. And then there's some that aren't. And it sort of mixes it all together. The majority of the women in the field were probably sponsored by some shoe company. Maybe like 10 or 20 of us weren't.
You're going to get there.
Yeah. Well, I should add, in this, I was all decked out in Puma for this one,
okay,
which was pretty cool. Puma, they launched, it was called Puma Project 3, and they were launching a new shoe called the R3. And as part of that, they had 100 men and 100 women at Boston wearing the shoes that had just come out.
Nice.
So I was part of that group. So I was wearing the Puma shoes, and they gave me a whole kit, which was really cool, fluorescent orange. So I kind of looked like a professional.
Absolutely. Well, you ran like one. Talk about the training. Let's first go physical and then the mental, component.
Yeah, so I train year-round for the most part. After a race, like now, I'll take off, a full 10 days off of no running, and then I sort of start training again. Building up for an actual marathon, like for Boston or for any of them, it ends up being about like 18 to 20 weeks of training that's purely dedicated to that race. Sometimes I'll throw in a 5K or a half marathon as part of the training buildup. But on average, you can say it's like 18 to 20 weeks. And it just builds from the start leading up to the marathon. Training-wise, I'm doing about 70 to 80 miles a week. That's off 6 days. So I always take off Mondays. And it's about, 10 to 13 hours it adds up to be. Twice a week, I work out or lift. I take a HIIT class at Slash Fitness in Delray to get, my legs and arms and core strength. And that's like for the most part it. So it's not like a, 24-hour job, right, but it's like a part-time job on the side.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And sounds so easy. I mean, you make it look easy.
Most of those miles are like easy miles, that I'm not pushing. And then twice a week, I either have, a long run,
which is about
16 to 22 miles, depending on where we are in the, in the buildup. And then a workout day. Sometimes I have 2 workout days a week, but at my age, I usually only do 1 a week, which involves more speed and hitting those marathon paces or like my or lower than that.
Okay. And how about the mental prep and heading into Boston and, for example, and preparing?
Yeah, I think I put a lot of trust mentally wise. I always go back to my training and I'm like, I put in the work, consistency is everything. I'm not expecting anything special for myself on race day, nothing different. I know I have confidence in the work that I've done, the training that I've done. I look on key workouts that give me confidence. I do things that give me confidence. And I've been doing these enough, racing these enough that I go in there like pretty confident with where I am, as long as I've done all the work leading up to it and I feel good about it. And then I know, the goal is not for it to be super, super hard on race day. I want to be comfortable. The cool thing about a marathon is it doesn't get hard until, halfway through. If it's hard earlier than 13 miles of the 26.2, you're in trouble. So it's it's not like you're going there to go all out immediately. You're going in there knowing that, patience is key for the first half. So, I think the marathon for me, it fits. It fits my personality really well, that it just, as long as you have the consistency and the discipline to be patient at the start, you'll be rewarded. So I love that. It's like an event that you can't fake it either. You can't, put in half the work and expect to do really well, because when you get to 18, 20 miles, your body, if you haven't put in those hours of time on your feet and work, it will show up. And I love it because it just requires real, honesty with the work and the effort, and then you'll be rewarded.
Yeah. So after mile 13, 14, 15, in the struggle moments, what are some of the things going through your head that, to get through, to keep going?
You play so many, it's so funny. You play so many games and talk through things. Now, Boston is interesting because Boston, there's hills. So Boston is a hard course. The first bit, it's rolling, but you're mainly going downhill, which is tough on your quads. And then you get to mile 16 and you start climbing, and they call them the Newton Hills, and then Heartbreak Hill is the final hill. And you can see why they call it that. A lot of hearts have been broken or people have lost races on there. So that was the hardest part for me because, I trained for hills, but we're in Florida, so it's, not the easiest thing to train for. And that's where you are just playing all the games with your head. I counted, I broke up the hills into pieces and started thinking of it as a workout, a 4x800 workout. I dedicate miles to people in my life. You just get to this point, then you can ease up, then get to this point. So it's a lot of game playing with your head, but I just focus, put my head down on those hills, focus on form, keeping my legs moving, keeping my arms, not allowing my form to fall apart, little steps, and just trusting my body to get through it and focusing, and hopefully all will bounce back post hills. Yeah.
Is there music involved?
So it's funny, when you're in the elite field, you cannot wear headphones. So I stopped wearing headphones during marathons probably about three years ago. In Chicago, in the Chicago Marathon, they have an American development field, which is right behind elite, and you're not allowed to wear headphones in that one either. So I stopped, and I was a little concerned. But there's so much going on. The amount of action on the sides and the cheers, especially this time, having my last name on my bib was the most unbelievable experience. And for the first 13 miles, I couldn't stop smiling, hearing the cheers from 8 people deep from mile, 1 to the whole thing is just lined with people cheering and screaming. And they're all saying, Perlman, go, you got this, and just yelling. So that's pretty wild. And you don't need music when you have that.
No.
Because you're paying attention to that and just the cool stuff that's going on. And when it gets hard, you probably block that out anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest question, of course, is, for people who it takes 45 minutes to run 3 miles, who ache, their muscles ache. And I tried it actually on Marathon Monday, and I because I had just had my birthday, and some of my best friends were making fun of me in my speed of walking. And I'm like, hey, I can do this. And I'm like, I'm going to start picking up my jog, you know, then 2 days later. And all week, my muscles, because they weren't used to it. I know the whole thing. I know why. I know it. But what is your advice to those of us who, you know, need to pick up the pace a little, want to start somewhere, don't know where to start, all that.
Yeah. And maybe in their 40s or something. I mean, I just turned 43 last week. So the big thing with it, I think, is consistency. I mean, you're not alone in feeling that way. I haven't been running for the last 40 plus years nonstop. So I have experienced that same challenge, when you stop doing it for a couple of years, then you start back into it. It's hard. So my best advice on that is the consistency, that build small where you're enjoying it. I mean, some people start with run, walk, building up, keep adding more minutes to your run, and just don't take off weeks. A days off is fine to give your body a rest, but I will tell you, I'm sore constantly. That becomes the norm. You don't feel great until race day when you tapered leading up to it, kind of thing. And by tapered, I mean you lower your mileage and intensity leading up. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel all fresh. But for the most part, in those 18 to 20 weeks, body is sore. And that's just sort of the norm of when you're living in it and you're pushing your body. But that being said, when you're just looking, to get out there to jog and enjoy it and feel good, 3-5 miles a day is more than enough, and rotate that and go easy and just consistently build it up.
Any other, when you're talking in the health and wellness space, are there some kind of nuggets or bullet points that you think from all of your experience are so important to kind of spread? What are some of those things that you like to share? Yeah.
So my secret of what I believe has really helped with the longevity of this. I ran in high school, I ran in college. I did take 10 years off after college and then got back into it. But the fact that I'm still improving into my 40s, which probably isn't the norm, sleep is number one. I am a 9 to 10 plus hours a night sleeper. My body needs it. It's always been that way since I was younger. I make it a priority. And I think that from a health and wellness, it helps me physically, mentally, et cetera. So that's make the time for it. I know some people naturally, it's easier than others to get the sleep, but I think that's been a huge piece for just recovery and healing. And so each day is sort of a new day of, my body's not aching so much. I'm a big proponent of vitamins, of whichever ones that can fulfill the lack of a nutrient or whatever. So I'm big on keeping, getting your blood tested to make sure you have enough iron, because when your ferritin goes low, then you're tired. Calcium to make sure that you're not getting stress reactions. There's a lot of pounding on your legs. So make sure, all the different vitamins to make sure as we get older, they recommend creatine for women, some people. So, just reading up and paying attention to the things that are, relevant to you, and speak to your doctor and figure out which things can help age your performance, because especially as we get older, you can't just run and not stretch. You need to make sure that you're keeping up on stretching, because otherwise that will lead to injuries. Or, women lose muscle when they get into their late 30s and 40s. So figuring out, do I need to add more lifting? Could be light lifting, but to make sure that we're not losing that muscle because we need it. Mm-hmm. So just being aware of those things, paying attention to research and staying on top of them. And recovery is the big item and the big thing that will keep you going.
You mentioned the start of your journey and kind of on and off. Where do you think it all came from in the love for running?
Yeah, growing up, I was a soccer player. My dad was a runner. He was, a star All-American at Penn State, a sprinter though. So it was in our blood. And I switched from soccer to running my freshman year of high school. And it was basically, initially I did running to get in shape for soccer. And then I was like, hey, I'm better at running than I was at soccer. And then, it's easy to commit time and energy to things that you're good at. And I just became obsessed with it. And then the nice part about running is, as I said before, what you put in, you get out of it. You can't really fake it. So you can't, you got to show up every day and do things, and then you get those results. And it's based on you and your effort. It's an individual sport in a lot of ways. Yes, there's team aspects of it, but you can't blame, this person was subbed in and they got this. It's all on you. And I love that aspect of it. And high school, it was an awesome 4 years. I mean, we won team state championships here in Florida. I won a couple of individual state championships. It was like a dream 4 years. And it was, it was life. It was everything. And then I ended up going to college. I went up to Brown in Rhode Island and ran for a year and a half, 2 years there, and wasn't having that same joy. I wasn't hitting the times that I did. I wasn't, winning the races that I did. My body just wasn't adjusting to it. And it was tough because, my identity was like running, like that's who I am, and she's the runner. So it took a couple of years of switching and being like, okay, focus on school, focus on my career, what I'm going to do. I don't have to be a runner. And I stopped. I ran casually every once in a while, but it didn't have that same intensity or purpose that I really thrive on. So stopped running for, it was probably like 10, 11 years after my sophomore year of college, which is a strange thing. But I found it back in 2011 was when I sort of found running, started the consistent training. I was coaching with my old coach at Spanish River High School. It made it easy. Showed up every day, ran with the team, and just did that for a couple of years to get back into it. And then that little competitive edge or want to do more just returned.
How neat to kind of go back to the, your
where
roots
it started.
And you felt energized again.
Yes.
After.
And sometimes I think it's like sometimes you have to find what really motivates you, right? So for me, working out in the gym or just like casually running doesn't do it for me. Like it's like not enough to be doing it for health or, to be fit or whatever. Like I need that competitiveness. I need races to, look forward to. I need, goals of times or achievements. And that's what, drove me and continues to drive me. For those 10 years, like I'd start, running or for, fitness, do it, but it wasn't enough to like really keep me in it.
Well, love it. And I'll love all this. We're going to switch gears in just a minute. We'll take a quick break, and then we're going to head into the PR world, another whole amazing space you conquer. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Paige Kornblue Show. My guest today is Melissa Perlman, the powerhouse in both PR world and also long distance running. We just heard a little bit about, a lot of great detail about the Boston Marathon, which you did exceptionally well, top 60 elite runners there. And from Palm Beach County, I love it, our own. So proud and congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Awesome news. And on the career side, not the running career, but the public relations career, back in my TV days at Channel 5, the two different times I was there, we crossed paths in many ways, and now we get to again in a few different spaces, the Boca Raton Bowl and all the things that you're working on and representing. Talk a little bit about that and kind of what you do. Talk about BlueIvy Communications and what it's all about.
Yeah, so BlueIvy Communications is a communications agency. We focus on public relations primarily. That's our bread and butter. And then we also offer everything that's related to communications, whether it's websites or newsletters or social media, speeches, direct mail, all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of built from there. And we have a team there's 8 of us, all here in Palm Beach County. And we work with local for the most part, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, nonprofits, anyone that's really looking to build their brand, get their voice out there, become a thought leader, get positive attention, and to really gain attention from the public, community, media, et cetera.
You founded the company.
I did.
Talk a little bit about that and why here and what you saw, you were able to kind of bring to this area.
Yeah. So my background has always been writing and journalism. I majored in expository writing, which is like nonfiction. So I always thought I was going to be on the journalism side of things. I loved it. I loved telling people stories, getting people exposure, and just talking about exciting things. When I graduated from college, I first joined the Office Depot headquarters, which were in Delray and later Boca, and I was in their corporate communications team. It was like my first internship, and I was like, all right, I've never heard of PR, but they had confidence that they're like, we can teach you it. If you can write, oh, you got it. And that's how I was introduced to PR. And it was sort of a, jump in, let's teach you about it. And I stayed at Office Depot for 7 years and loved it and grew with the company and had just experiences of, media events and NASDAQ and really cool experiences on the corporate side of things with a large company. And then in 2011, I'd worked with some PR professionals that were independent, doing their own thing. I was watching them, seeing what they were doing. And I was like, I can do that. Like I can go off on my own and do what they're doing. And I loved connecting directly with people. I had really great relationship with some of the, business owners at Office Depot, the people that owned environmental or owned stores or whatever it may be. And I was like, I want to work directly with people and tell their stories. And so launched the company, sort of just jumped out there, and June 1st, 2011 was like, here I am. And, it was slow growing at first. And it was a lot of, hey, I can do, PR for you, or you're looking for a PR professional. Have you ever considered working with someone on the outside? A lot of that and, grassroots connecting and networking. And it just started to take off. And, gradually, some of my first clients that year, we still have as clients, which is really nice. And I just loved it. I love the ability to work from my own office at home, work whenever I wanted to, when the need was there, but not have to do like the 9-to-5 thing. It fit into my life. It allowed me to have extra time for running. That's when I was able to coach on the side. So it just was a perfect fit for me, and I enjoyed it. And, the clients that I picked up and kept on picking up, it just worked.
Yeah. You mentioned that, and I think a lot of women struggle with that, right? And whether they're working women, solely career, or they're working moms,
yep.
or, and finding that so-called balance.
Yep.
Does it exist is the whole debate. No, not really. But creating the work week, the full week, with weekend, and, how do you juggle all of that?
Yeah, and what works for you.
Yeah.
For me, I realized early on when I was working at the corporate lifestyle, I say 9-to-5, but it was really 8-to-6. That was tough for me. I didn't feel like, I don't love waking up early in the morning. I like my sleep. So I couldn't fit in the workout before. And then you finish at 6 p.m. and it's dark out or whatever it is. You don't feel like working out or doing anything. So I just go home and go to bed. But I'm on my BlackBerry. I'm aging myself, but I was on my
I love the BlackBerry
all night, responding to emails, didn't care. It was my thing. Yeah. So in my head, I was like, all right, well, if I'm willing to do this and I don't mind, I don't, the mix of work life, it doesn't bother me. What was the hard part was getting in there and having to be in an office all day and just okay, if I have a meeting or not, or lunch has to be, here, and the flexibility was lacking and hard for me. And what I realized when I left and did my own thing is I could write my own schedule. I don't mind, working Friday night for 5 hours to get something done if I'm passionate about it and I love it, or the weekend. But what I do want is to be able to take my dog to the dog park at, 3 p.m. during the week, or be able to, run to Publix to pick some items up at 11 a.m. So having that control of being able to do things when I wanted to do them, and still to this day, is everything for me. And it's allowed me to balance, work. And I never miss a deadline because I'm willing and I enjoy finishing and putting in the work. But I'm able to fit in the other things. And it's allowed me to do the running and to travel for running and to travel for the Maccabi games or whatever it is, and get all of that done in between. And it's really served me. And I think for other people, it's figuring out that balance. And now I don't have kids. I have a dog. So I don't have the same expectations or limitations or responsibilities that someone with kids that has to get them to 10 different places. So I won't, pretend that I understand that. But when you're able to sort of fit the life into what you like doing, it doesn't feel like it's such a struggle, because it's easy to fit it all in when you're doing the things that you want to and not having to force them into a specific time. And for me, that's worked really well. The other part of balance that I have to credit is my partner, Mark, that he allows me to prioritize, and he has the house prioritize, my running and the work, so that it's not like, okay, I have to do this and then I have to do 10 different things for the house. And he really allows me to focus on, the areas that I need to focus on to get it all done, which is nice and helpful.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Which it makes it 100 times easier. Yeah.
Absolutely. When trying to stay focused, is routine kind of a big thing for you?
Yeah, it is, with flexibility. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I do like routine. Like I was joking about how this week, I took a week off after running, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know which end is up. And it's hard for me to not have that, you have to get it in kind of thing. So yes, I do thrive on routine, but I need that flexibility, just me personally. So it's not like I run every morning at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Like if you looked at my, my Strava, it's where it tracks our running. It's at 7 a.m., it's at 11 a.m., it's at 9, it's at 5. Like I fit it in wherever I can, and I make sure I fit it in. But it is like randomly whenever it is, because, with PR, like I could have an interview at 4:30 a.m. one morning, or I could have the interview at, 10 a.m. So I just in my world, I have a list every day in my calendar. I'm like a big list person, and this is what has to get done. And I put the same focus on, like, I have to write a PR strategy for this client, or I have to put together a newsletter for this client, or I have to get my 13 miles in. And it all gets, on the same list, and it gets checked off. And I just make sure I get it done by the end of the day.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's Post-it notes, which is probably my problem, because I'm they're all over in my brain, and then and I'm like, I need to kind of.
But it is so fulfilling for me to like check those boxes off and be like, done. Okay, next, and everything gets the same priority. Like it's not like this press release gets less of priority than the 13 miles or whatever it is. Like it's just, I know I'm going to get it done.
Yeah, and you get it done. And you do it. You have quite a pulse on the PR world. I think both of us realize the value of public relations, of the written word, despite all of the platforms that are spinning around right now. And, it's an ebb and
struggle.
Flow, and the struggle. And we're creating within them, and we're creating for them. But then we're also going old school, and the true value of the newscast and the all of it, but it's all now valuable.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you look at all that, and kind of how do you keep up with it all?
Yeah, there's a lot, especially with social media and everyone. Like, I'm a social media expert and I'm an influencer and this and and coming from the traditional, as you said, like PR, traditional news world. And then you have people that are like, oh, no one watches the news. And I think for us, it's exposure and it's eyes. And we really look at, I was talking to you earlier about this, the repurposing and making sure that like when our client is in the Palm Beach Post, that I am clipping that article, I'm scanning it, I am taking a picture of it, whatever I need to do, and putting it in a format that can be shared 10 other ways. So nothing is just a solo effort. Everything is connected. And that's why, yes, when I started the company, it was just public relations. I had no interest in anything else. I'm like, nope, I do PR. That's my expertise. I'm really good at it. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you can't just do PR because you need to share this on their social media accounts and make sure, because not everyone sees it in the newspaper. Not everyone gets the newspaper. So making sure that people are seeing it on the website posted, or it's being sent in their MailChimp newsletter, or it's being posted on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever it is. And it's really just, there's so many ways to reach people nowadays. And that's the great part about it. I mean, there's podcasts, there's, webinars, there's a million different ways to reach people. Everyone is hungry for content. They're not all going the traditional route anymore to get their news. So it's just figuring out the appropriate way to get your clients' audience, their ideal audience, to see or hear or, view or feel what they're doing. And it's exciting, I think, because I'm not throwing away traditional media. I love it. I still, have my newspaper contacts. I still get the newspaper. I get the e-edition of like all the local newspapers. I still read it every morning. So it's not going away. And there's others like me, but it's figuring out how to make sure other eyes are seeing it. And I think that's the key of not separating yourself from it, but taking advantage. And I think that also goes into AI. Like, there's a fear with that. Like, well, we need writers. Like, we use AI to make ourselves more efficient. So it cuts down a little bit of time sometimes, but I'm not depending on it because it's actually not a writer. It's like a research aggregate. So it's figuring out
assistant,
yeah,
right? One of your many assistants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to use those tools to better, more efficiently do your job. And I think that's kind of cool when you're open to that, because it's like you're still learning. And for me, where, half my career was probably more like the BlackBerry days, and now this part of my career is I'm right in the middle of it. It's fun because you have to learn new things. Like you have to consistently learn, but not forgetting, again, the bread and butter. And like at the end of the day, I consider myself a writer. Like that's what I was trained in, and that will never go away. And I'll always have that skill to bring to whatever outlet it is.
Love all that. I love all that. Well, we're going to take one more break, and then we're going to come back with a few takeaways from Melissa as we sign off.
Perfect.
Be right back. Welcome back to the Paige Kornblue Show. Melissa Perlman is my guest, our powerhouse, as I like to say, in both the public relations world and in the marathon running champion world. So proud of her Boston Marathon accomplishments and so many others, both nationally and internationally. You've competed all over the world. Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In Israel, in Argentina, in Budapest, in Berlin, London. Yeah, it's cool when you can take your running elsewhere and compete and then turn it into a little bit of an adventure to see that part of the world. It's a cool way to see the world.
Yeah, and that's on the competitive level. Like when you're just traveling for fun, vacations, do you lace them up? And
I do. And it's such like it's a nice way to see like areas that you wouldn't, or even sometimes meet people because you're out there running and you run into someone and they're like, oh, hey, are you running? It's a really nice way to see areas of a country, a city that you wouldn't, because you really can't walk so far. It would take you a long time to walk as far as you could run if you're putting in miles. So I love it. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about we got your advice and guidance for those starting out in the in in the health and fitness and jogging and running world. But how about in terms of the professional space? What would you say, just your advice for those kind of, whether it's PR or just anything based on your experience, for those who might need a little push?
Yeah, I think similar to what I said about marathoning and running, it's consistency. And it's putting in the time and effort in your professional life, in your work life, in your health life, in your hobbies. It's the consistent work over and over again. And it's not always fun. You know, do I feel like running every single day? There's some days that I have to be like, all right, I have to get this done. Work, this is the same thing. Do I love a lot of what I do for work? But there's some things that aren't as much fun, but you have to put in the time, the effort, the work, the hours. And I think we have to remember, especially the younger people, there's a lot of like, I want this now, and the immediate impact of it and the response, and I want to be promoted tomorrow. And the patience and the ability to just consistently show up, be dependable, put in the work, learn the effort, it will reward you eventually. You may not see the rewards immediately, but if you're willing to put the time in and just be consistent about it, it's amazing what you can achieve. I mean, all of my achievements in my life, whether it's professional or running, none of them have been overnight. They've all come from, years of putting in the work, sometimes where it was really hard, and sometimes where I was like, I don't know if this is the right direction, but just showing up and doing it, and then it ends up being all worth it. And I think sometimes we forget that, and especially like the younger generations, they forget that you're so young and you have so many years ahead of you, and there's time to put in this effort and this work, and you will be rewarded for it.
Kind of on similar lines, but what would you say your takeaway would be for those who maybe are down in the dumps, or who are struggling through something, or hey, maybe having a good day, but just I always love a note of inspiration, or what's your kind of go-to, or something that comes to mind, perhaps a coach has shared with you, or your dad in the running space?
Yeah, I think I remind myself that whatever's going on is temporary, and if you get out of it and you can separate yourself from whatever the funk is, or the tough part of it, you got to remember that in 3 months, a year, 3 years, it won't be so emotional, hard, difficult, challenging. You will get through it. And I think that's like the biggest reminder in all parts of life. And if I could, compare it to like the marathon, there's a joke with like it's never going to be easy all 26 miles. You're going to go through patches, they call them, where it's going to be awful and your legs hurt and you want to quit and you want to walk. I mean, even people winning marathons say this, that you want to just be done and you're asking yourself why I'm doing it. And then you get through it. And like a couple miles later, you're like, oh, I feel some bounce and I feel okay and I'm not so far. And I think we have to remember the same thing with life, because there have been so many moments in my life where it's like so consuming that you're like, this is just terrible, or this is the end, and this is like, I can't get through this, and it's too hard, and I don't know why, it's not worth trying to get through this. And then when I think about it now and looking back, I'm like, it was a blip. It was a blip on the whole life, and it's not, and yeah, it hurt then, and it was emotional then, and it was really hard, but it's not that same feeling that when you fast forward a couple of months or years or whatever. And I think we all have to remind ourselves that this is a long life with a lot of ups and downs, and we all are going to have them. And, the highs are going to be great sometimes, and the lows are going to be really terrible. But if you can just stay steady and get through it and try not to allow it to overcome you, allowing for when it's hard, to cry through it or to struggle through it, but noting that, you will get through it and you'll look back on it and say, I'm a stronger person for getting through that, or here are the tools that I gained from getting through that. And I think we all have to remind ourselves that, especially when things are hard.
Yeah. And every day.
Right? Yeah.
Just keep running.
Yep. Just keep running.
And
Just keep
writing.
swimming and writing and swimming.
And swimming and
all of the
things.
above.
And toasting, cheers. Cheers
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Well,
and
thank you.
Thank you for this tidbit of time in your schedule, and really appreciate it. And how can folks connect with you?
In the professional world, Blue Ivy, we're on Instagram, BlueIvy Communications, Facebook. Our website is blueivycommunications.com. And then my running, my separate running profile is on Instagram. It's Mel Runs Fast.
Okay, we got it. And I'm going to put those all on my website. It's
Perfect.
paigekornblue.com. I always say Paige with an I and Kornblue with a K. So, Melissa Perlman, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.